Hello folks, this is Steve AB4L. I should be in bed, but I couldn't pass up this one. I was just browsing the news just before I was going to turn everything off and go to bed. Let me show you. Now, nothing in this episode is a promotion, nor is it a recommendation. And I'll explain why it caught my attention. Two factors. So, when I used to live in Raleigh, I used to live near NC State campus, and on the other side of the NC State campus is television station, a major television station in North Carolina, WRAL. I've told you that before. Now, there's all kinds of news, but the one that caught my attention, see these people right here? We're going to get them out. Lucama residents say town doubled their electric bills. All right. Now, why would that attract my attention? Two reasons. First, we're going to take a little side trip. Lucama NC WHIRLAGIGS whirligigs. Lucama, North Carolina. Volas Simpson whirligigs. Original location. Can you see them? Now he's passed on, and mucho years ago, my good twin on the other channel has a video about that because I thought they were beautiful. So when it said Lucama, the first thing I thought of was the whirligigs. And I spoke to the guy, the old guy. Where is Lucama? Town in North Carolina. Now we'll get back to the newspaper article. So there's Lucama. Here's Wilson, North Carolina. There's Raleigh. You go east at 264, and it takes you to Wilson, and it's near there. Here's Lucama down here. Okay? There's Smithfield. Smithfield, North Carolina was where Ava Gardner was born and grew up. Movie star you never heard of unless you're old like me. It's out in the country. But let's get back to this. So I saw Lucama. I've been there. I remembered the whirligigs. But they're talking about their getting rid of somebody in the town about their electric bills. When I lived in Raleigh, but also when I lived here, I had to pay for my electric bill. In Raleigh, it was Duke Energy. I'm not promoting anything. Major power producer, multi-state, big generating plants. You got outages. Select your location. I want to show you this. North Carolina, South Carolina, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Florida. I said big. They do their own generation. Now you wonder, why am I going off on that? Just pay attention. Watch what happens with North Carolina. You see Raleigh and Asheville. That's Duke Energy Progress. But if it's another part of Raleigh and Charlotte and the area in between, that's Duke Energy Carolinas. Because where I lived, I used to pay to Progress Energy, but at a certain point, for whatever reason, Duke Energy bought them, or they merged, and for, I'm sure, tax purposes and all that, it's not Duke Energy, it's Duke Energy Progress. Or it's Duke Energy Carolinas. And I have no idea what it is in Ohio, Kentucky, or Florida, or South Carolina. So we're talking about a major electricity producer on the United States stage. Now let's get back to the article. We're going to get them out. Lucama residents say town doubled their electric bills? Town doubled their electric bills? Now, I know that there have been some, way back, local electricity producers. And as a matter of fact, if you were to go down to Franklinville, or you go to Cedar Falls, or you go to Worthville, all along the Deep River, there are dams, and you can hear the generators. Yeah, that's the way they're using the dams now. They use them to produce electricity to run the local mill, but the local mills are not there anymore. So what do you do with the electrical generation equipment? Well, you still run it, but you sell it on the open market or to Duke Energy Progress. All right? So is that what the town does? They have their own generators? Let's find out. Some residents say their bills doubled and even tripled in some cases. A town administrator said the town was losing money and needed to make a price hike. And then they go into the details about what's happening with how people are unhappy. And they're talking about how big their deficit is, $670,000. Newsom, some administrators said the town would absorb 10% while the residents have to pay the remaining 5%. However, when Lucama cannot afford the cost, the residents saw another hike. At first, people were complaining, are my meters bad? So let me show you what I did next. I went Lucama Electric Company. And it says Lucama Electric Company Incorporated. And it's the results for Lucama, North Carolina. And then I saw this article right here, Dateline, August 1st, 2022. It's a website called Find Energy. Let's look at the article. And apparently it explains about them. Lucama, North Carolina Electric Utility. Lucama, North Carolina rates and electric bills, residential and commercial. We're talking about a small town out in farm country. Lucama, North Carolina Electric Utility is a municipality-owned entity with headquarters in Lucama, North Carolina, and serving customers in North Carolina. All right. The supplier has 1,073 residential customers and 90 commercial customers within their service area that provides electricity to. Now they go on to say that this is last year before the heat wave. On average, Lucama, North Carolina electric utility charges their consumers a residential electricity rate of 10.13 cents per kilowatt hour. Thankfully, it says thankfully, this is 17.25% below the North Carolina's average rate of 12.24, which ranks the supplier second best for average revenue out of 108 companies in North Carolina. Did you hear that? 108 companies in North Carolina? I thought it was Duke Carolina and Duke Progress. Oh, wait a minute. There may still be some local electricity producers. But the question is Lucama a producer? Is the town? Well, then it goes on to explain. Now remember, this was written a year ago, before the climate emergency heat wave, where people are doing things like running their heat pumps and their air conditioning. The megawatt hours sourced by the provider, Lucama Electric Company, a municipally owned company, the town, the megawatt hours sourced by the provider primarily come from megawatt hours they purchase by way of the wholesale market. So in a certain sense, their electricity could be produced in TVA, Tennessee, could be produced in Michigan. They're buying it off the national grid. What happened in Texas a winter ago? Do you remember how some customers were complaining about how their electric bills suddenly went into the thousands of dollars? Because Texas was not able to produce enough electricity to take care of the extreme freezing temperatures or the extreme hot weather, and they had to buy it off the grid in addition to what they could produce, and they had to charge their customers for it. Ditto for certain parts of California, which is unable to produce enough electricity because of their policies. Are you getting the picture? So while this is a rosy picture a year ago, apparently things have changed, and this year, with everybody running their heat pumps and their air conditioners because it's been so hot nonstop in Lucama, that they had to buy off the national grid while the rest of the country was doing the same thing. And there was a competition to even get any electricity at any price. I'm interpreting. And now they're going to throw out the town people? I'm smiling. I'm glad I'm buying from Duke Energy. last August when the tree fell at the corner of the lot and took out the three main distribution lines running across here. Within a couple of hours, they had contractors out to spend the rest of the day putting it all back together. What would they do in Lucama? It's a small town that's, quote, supplying the electricity by buying it off the national grid. Wonder what the history about that is. We aren't going to let Big Duke come in here. We got tradition. See, I'm making fun of it. So let's go back. Lucama Electric Company Incorporated. Lucama Electric Department, 111 South Main Street, 252. Oh, I forgot to show you something. See, it's right there. There's 301. That's the highway. Will they let me click on it? No, they won't let me click on it. I forgot to show you something from that find energy thing. Oh, well, let me go back there. Lucama, North Carolina Electric Utility Overview. Headquarters, 111 South Main Street, Lucama. We knew that. Here's the contact information. Website, www.townoflucamanc.com. Oh, the site can't be reached. The site can't be reached. It's offline. Maybe they couldn't pay their electric bill. Shazam! What do you think of that? I'm trying it again. Reload. It said, now here's the thing. Error, connection closed. Now the web browser is interpreting it. The Town of Lucama website unexpectedly closed the connection. So it is there. It isn't because they don't have electricity. It is, wherever that server is, it is there. But now they've programmed it, because, see, probably the town's computing services are running off the same machine. This is a guess. But for that part, for anybody trying to actually, but then notice what it says, Town of Lucama. Suppose I want to contact the police department. They've got it set up that they acknowledge they're there, but when you try to submit the request, they close the connection. You can program that. Do you think that goes along with the WRAL news item? Let's try this. Lucama NC Fire Department. Wilson County, Crossroads Volunteer Department. There it is. That doesn't surprise me. I said it was a small town out in farm country. Crossroads Volunteer. I'm giving you the scale of, and they've got some business office right down there in town that all it does is collect electric bills from you, but they buy off the national grid. I wonder what the history of that is. Why don't they just connect to Duke? I mean, there were a couple of incidences where Dukes couldn't keep up with the demand because they did something wrong with one of their two generating plants, and then they had supposedly rotating outages for an hour or two that were actually 4 hours. But it isn't like they just disappeared or they jacked my rates up like 10x. In a case of emergency, call 911, but it doesn't say it has a website. Number of stations 1, career firefighters 0. I'm letting you know what kind of town it is. We have volunteer fire departments around. Asheville has a fire department, but around it there are a number, in this county, there are a number of volunteer fire departments. Matter of fact, I was down in another county today, and that's exactly what they have. They have all the engines there and all that stuff, but there's nobody in there because it's a volunteer fire department. Half of the force over there in Franklinville that comes in is volunteer. I've seen them run the truck out to Cedar Falls, and a guy arrived. He obviously came from work or farming or something, and he was putting on his raincoat and got into the engine, and then they went. Number of paid on-call firefighters 0. I'm giving you an idea of what it is. I'm making fun of them. Hang on. This says utility policies. Let me just take that off and just try to go to the main website. And it did the same thing. Now watch what I do. Ping I don't want it to say HTTPS. Ping www.townoflucamanc.com. Their server is answering. It's there. But when you try to connect to them, they drop the connection intentionally. I'll try it during the day, but I have a feeling it's, it might very well be that when they leave the office at the town hall, they put it in kind of like sleep mode. I'll put in an addendum and I'll try this during business hours. So in order to bring this to an end, let's pause, and then there'll be a little ending piece where I do this, try to get to them during normal working hours. Let's pause. Hello folks, this is Steve A.B. continuing a little more than a day and a half later. This is going to be a short true addendum, but I'm going to show you what I did a few moments ago as a separate episode. So the question is about the town of LukamaNC.com. Ping www.townoflucamanc.com. The machine is there. It's answering. www.townoflucamanc.com, just like I did a day and a half ago. GoDaddy is a major domain registration company. You want to find a special name for your website, you go to GoDaddy, somebody like GoDaddy. Townoflucamanc.com is part free, courtesy of GoDaddy.com. Get this domain. I'll let you interpret what that means. It's parked. Doesn't that make sense? Now, it kind of suggests that the domain was originally registered by the town through GoDaddy, specialized service, just like you go to somebody, a doctor, to get medical care, you go to an insurance agent to get insurance, you go to a domain expert who will take care of all the paperwork to actually get everything running so that when you have the domain and the IP number, it can be found. It actually works because there is an international registration syndicate. This is Steve AB4EL. Now we know why it's a day and a half later, and now instead of it just clonking out and say, we get this. Something's happening. I have no idea what. Steve AB4EL. Just having fun exploring, saying see you in 73.